Hey, good morning. Steve Zellenard here with Remax Experts, Zellenard Associates. Just a real quick update on the market. Current inventory, we're at 9,725 units, so up 1% since last week. And then sales dipped from 697 down to 612 units, so down about 12% if you do put it in percentage form. Realistically, those numbers, nothing to worry about. We're following some markets more. Like in depth. Let's just say for Bolton, for example, we had a listed appointment there, so we kind of tracked how much inventory was at the beginning of the year when we did the presentation to now, and basically it's doubled with the amount of inventory in that market right now since let's say early Jan to this point right now. But ultimately, it's still very low inventory for the area. There is property selling conditioning, so still very good flowing market. No concern there. We know that the Bank of Canada did raise their overnight lending rate last week when they met January 25th, which was Wednesday, and it's up a quarter basis points. They're going to meet again March 8th, then April, then June, then July, then September, October, and December to finish off the year. I don't see another rate increase, let's say in March at this point here. I think that the inflation should be in the fives by the time this thing comes back when they report it later this month. And we'll keep you posted on that naturally, how everything's going. Switching gears, I was reading an article, and this is one of my worst fears ever. It's title fraud. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but it's not like, again, there's only 32 cases in Ontario that we know of in BC, but what they do is they target houses and they sell them without you knowing. So what they do is they either they're going to rent your house, impersonate you as a seller, and ultimately sell the property to another buyer. Buyer moves in, thinks he's dealt directly through the seller, he's dealt with a lawyer, a realtor, has gone through the whole system, and then ultimately the real owners of the property found out that they don't own the house anymore. The title has changed. Because when do they find out about that? Is when the tenant stops paying the rent, and they go knock on the door, and now there's new homeowners, and then they check the title of the property, and everything's been done legally. So now they have to prove it in court that they were the original owners and they didn't sell it, and that's just it's quite scary. And to be honest, what they target is usually houses paid in cash. This is what I always tell clients that have houses paid in cash, they have no mortgage on the property, is that you should have something tied to it, like a line of credit. Even if you're not going to use the line of credit, tie it to the property, because it's going to make it so much harder for someone to impersonate you as a seller, because they got to deal with the bank at that point. So it's almost like a secondary layer of protection, because if you have your house paid in cash, all he's got to do is convince a realtor, which especially in today's market, if you're desperate, a lot of realtors will overlook a lot of things. So realtor taking the listing, selling the property, getting a commission doing it, and then lawyers, as long as you can impersonate, like you got, like if you read here, it's not even the people that are, or the scam artists that are behind the actual sale, like they hire actors to impersonate the seller. So these are professional actors that go in, they understand, and then ultimately lawyers believe them if they create fraudulent identification, stuff like that, and then ultimately you don't have a house anymore. Like look at this one case here. King's investigation include the case of a Toronto condo owner, Mafi Yu, who discovered that her two-bedroom downtown property had been listed and sold last year for $970,000 using her name. The property's title now lists someone else as the owner, although a caution notice has been placed on the document of the Director of Land Titles indicating that it is disputed. Toronto police confirmed they are investigating. But you know how the system is. You're going to have to put it through investigation. They have to prove that it was fraud. Then you have to go into lawyers. It's time, money, energy. That's just nonsense, right? Ultimately, you could lose at the end, because once the title legally transfers from one buyer to another, or one seller to a buyer, ultimately you have to prove that. And sometimes the people lose houses. This is a scary thing. Read this case here. This one was interesting. And this is another caveat. When you rent your property, right? You gotta be careful and gotta be cautious. So it's basically, in a recent case, his firm investigated involved a home valued at $2.2 million in Ontario. The true owners contracted a property management company to rent out their home after moving to England for work. But it was rented by fraudsters who moved in, impersonated the owners, and sold it for $1.7 million in 2 weeks. So that's a quick payout. And if the house is paid in cash, like again, there's not that layer of protection where they have to just fool a few people, and ultimately the house is paid, closes, gets deposited in an account, they withdraw it or move it into some other account, and then ultimately they're gone with the proceeds of the house. So yeah, is this just this cautionary note? Even for us too, a few houses paid in cash, like ultimately we have to be aware of that. There's got to be some sort of layer of protection, and what we do is just we put a line of credit on there. Even though if it's at zero, we don't use it, but ultimately it is one more layer of protection that they have to get through. And usually the banks are pretty good at not allowing scams to happen. Do get scammed for sure, but ultimately they're pretty good at it. That's pretty much it, guys. Have an amazing day. We will talk soon. Have a great day. Ciao.